I suppose I should have started this video earlier when I was going through the whole troubleshooting process, but right here I have a Vox AC50CP, I mean, you probably can't see in there, it's a bit dark down there, which came to me with no sound coming out of it. When you turned it on, the lights, the power and the standby would come on, but no sound at all came out of the speaker. Not only when you plugged into the input, but also if you plugged into the, what's it called over here, the effects return over there. And sometimes plugging into the effects return on an amp will get you some sound when you aren't getting sound out of the main input, because that bypasses most of the preamp. So the first thing to do was to check the HT fuse over here, but that was fine, and then to check the power transformer and the output transformer, and both of those turned out to be fine. You can test those by testing for continuity on the output transformer between both the secondary and the primary, and also by, and the power transformer rather, you can test by looking for power on the plates. And if there is power on the plates and you're not getting any sound at all, then it's not something like a screen grid or something, because you would still get some power out of there. So that kind of rules that out. All those tested fine, so then it was kind of time to dig in a bit. And what I ended up finding was over on this board over here. The preamp tubes, which also includes the phase inverter, which is why there was no sound coming out even when I was bypassing the preamp section, because the phase inverter is also on this circuit. It's a DC filament. So instead of just running the preamp filaments off the AC power supply from direct from the transformer, which is what the power tubes run on, because you would require a huge capacitor to turn that into DC and still get a clean enough supply on the with the extra current those are drawing, or a larger one anyway. I suppose not super huge, but larger than we'd need. And it's not really necessary because there's you're already hearing very little hum on that circuit. But right here, this is the DC filament circuit. It comes in from the transformer over here. There's a fuse right there, which is for the filament supply. And then for the preamp section, it runs into this right here, which is a full wave bridge rectifier. And this is the one that I've put in. It's actually slightly larger. This is the one that was originally in there. And I found that it was getting power at these two over here, which are where the AC signal comes in, but there was no power or very little voltage coming off the plus and minus over here, which is, well, it's a sign that the rectifier doesn't work. Or I suppose it could be a sign there's a huge drain that's wiping it out too, but generally speaking, that's a rectifier that's out. I replaced this rectifier right here, and also while I was at it, I replaced these four caps. These four caps are all in the circuit which filter the supply from the from there to get a clean DC supply, so you don't hear any switching hum in the speakers over there. And the reason I replaced those, they were possibly fine, but it was kind of a caution, because a rectifier like this is rated for 10 amps, whereas all these tubes over here, it's 4 12AX7s, which only should draw at 6 volts, I think it's what, 1.2 amps, so it should have been well overbuilt. So my guess is that there was possibly, anyway, a cap failure, because this is from the era when there were a lot of capacitor plague issues, and then caps would fail. So just to be safe, they're 75 cents a piece, so why not? In order to get these in here, I had to actually take this board out. But not only that, that gives you too little room to get it out of the way. So I also had to unscrew the board with the preamp tubes on it over there, and then also desolder these over here, which I believe are the ones that go to the output transformer, though I'm not totally positive. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked into it closely. And then once you do that, you can flip it up enough to get underneath and solder all those things in over there. So with all those replaced, we get power to the circuit over here that lights up the preamp tubes, and then everything works. So this was fortunately a very easy repair. So if you have an amp, whether it's this one or another one that isn't getting any power to the preamp tubes, and you can tell that, I forget what even pins they are. It looks like it's pin 4 and then also pin 9 over here. Oh, that's right. It's pin 4 and 5, I believe, are the ones that connect to one side of the filament, and then the other one is pin 9 connects to the other side of the filament, because there's two separate ones in there. If it's a 6-volt system or if it's 12 volts, it'll be between 4 and 5. And then, so if you're getting no voltage between those two, that's a pretty good sign that you have a failure in the DC filament circuit supply. So trace it back to your rectifier and replace the caps to be safe, or check the fuse first, but this fuse was fine, that wasn't the issue. So that's what I did to this amp, and I guess while I have it I should do a little bit of a demo of how it sounds before I return it tomorrow, so I guess I'll get on that. Anyway, hope this is helpful to somebody, and yeah.